Episode number 459 of the West Tigers podcast. It is a post-victory edition of the West Tigers podcast. Yay! Fantastic night, Leichhardt Oval, 33-14 the final score against the dreaded Green Machine. After trailing 14-10 at the break, we'll talk about that game in more depth shortly. But first, let's kick off with one word to describe that Canberra game. Declan's here and Jordan's here. And Mac is here. Mac from West Tigers Faithful. Good to catch up with you again, Mac. I'm going to throw to you first. What's your one word coming out of that game against Canberra?
Thanks. It's awesome to be here. Uh, Affirming.
Affirming. It's
Yeah.
affirming our credentials as a decent football team.
More like affirming that what like I thought was happening was really happening,
Yeah.
because I think as a West Tigers fan, there's been so many false dawns over the last decade and a half that everything feels like it's just a trap that's set up to
Mm.
just make you, you know, hopeful again, only to have the rug pulled out from under us. But no, that game was very affirming. It was very professional, and it's hard to envision that this isn't just the reality that we're actually seeing. Considering the way that they're winning games, the way that they're actually performing. Even when they lose, they're only losing, in narrow score
Yeah.
lines after
1 point, 4
dominating heaps.
points.
So
Mm.
affirming.
Yeah. All right. I like it. I like it a lot. And I think a lot of people would say that's probably how I feel about it as well. Although there has been some news that we'll talk about in just a moment, which I think has taken the air out of some people's tyres. It'll no doubt spark a bit of a debate. Jordan, how are you? One word,
Good.
please, for the, what's that? 19-point win.
I think it's been used a few times this year already, but resilient. Resilience definitely what we showed. They scored most of their points through that period where Api was binned. But keeping them, not the amount of points we scored in the second half, the fact that we kept them scoreless in the second half. We're sticking to the game plan, we're bashing players, we're dominating that middle section of the field. And it was just a resilient performance because we didn't allow the fact that they took the lead from us towards the back end of that half, and we came back and stormed home through the end.
Yeah. Well, they scored all 14 points with Api off the field, so they didn't score a point with us having 13 players. So, yeah, I like it. And Declan, what have you got for us?
I'm going to cheat a little bit again and just say the first win of a new block of the season because I felt that Broncos game, having Luai coming back into the team, it really felt like it was no longer the beginning of the season and it was kind of this little strange period before Origin. So it was just really good to get a win against Canberra where we've kind of started this new block where
Mm.
we have our starting halves so we can kind of build these combos towards the season because I don't really think we can say that we've just had a good start to the season. I think that Canberra win has shown that we are like a genuinely good team that can make the eight this year because we've shown consistently enough this season how we've played and that we've played at a pretty good level.
Excellent. Yeah, yeah. Well, I've got to say, I'm going to do something both equally brave and stupid soon. I'm going to flash something up on the screen, something new, and I want to see if you guys get it. And it could be, we look back at the end of the year and go, it's all Joel's fault when things went wrong, but we'll get to that shortly. I've taken some liberty, as I always do. I've got momentum. It is such a game of momentum. We had it and we lost it. And when we lost it big time. And there was a particular play that, aside from Appy getting sin bin, that where we lost our momentum that we'll talk about. Physicality has to be there. I thought, again, quite good physically against a team that does play a very physical, bustling sort of game. I've got sin bin because I just think that was such an important part of that game and how much impact it had on the game. It could have had on the game if we weren't able to come back in the second half. And I've got along the lines of one of the things I want to talk about, I've got patience. And that is, I think there's still some aspects of this team that need to learn that we don't have to score every set. I like an attacking mindset. I like us all, every play to be pushing through and looking for opportunities. But sometimes we're going to need to learn to be just a little bit more patient. So I've gone for patience. That's what I'd like to see. Okay, so the news that's broken this afternoon, Jerome Luai has apparently flown over to Papua New Guinea and met with the Chiefs. Potential of joining them. It's something that I don't think many West Tigers fans saw coming. I mean, we knew that that Luai was getting to the point where it was a year-on-year sort of deal. And this is a great debate because there's a really, really lot of strength in an argument either way. And I've got my opinion on it. I'm going to go to Mac first. I think Mac has put up a video on the West Tigers Faithful channel basically saying, well, if he does go, it isn't the end of the world.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you for following our socials. That's much
I see
appreciated.
everything. Yeah.
You see everything. We were actually recording our episode when that dropped, so we were pretty fortunate to be able to like start talking about it straight away. Yeah, look, my take on it is I have not really been all that convinced with Jerome Luai's on-field output since he's been with us. I understand the argument about his off-field contributions and how he's made the club more attractive to other players and probably like, set some good standards at training. And I also understand that the strength of Benji Marshall is largely enhanced by how much the senior players like Jerome buy into what he's doing. But on the field, I don't think that he was very good last year. So far this year, in the 3 games that he has played, I think he has been better. But has he been a $1.2 million half? I don't think so. I was having this conversation with somebody just yesterday. I kind of think he's more of like an 800K half, which for those who are paying attention is what Penrith offered him that we
Yeah.
blew out of the water. So in that respect, I would, it's not like I would have like pulled the trigger and been like, see you later, Jerome. Because the last thing we probably need is instability. But
Yeah.
considering the Chiefs aren't entering the comp until 2028 anyway, and by that time you'd be looking at what, like a 23-year-old Latu Fainu, 21-year-old, actually probably like 24-year-old Latu Fainu and 22-year-old Andrews. Jock Madden's obviously proving that he can do a job. He's undefeated as a starting half at the West Tigers in 2026. I don't really see there being all that much to worry about, with one exception, and that's do other players follow him out the door? And I
Yeah.
think that that's the main thing that I'm concerned about.
Declan, is Jerome Luai a luxury we can't afford? Is that could that money be better spent?
I think that when it comes to like the $1.2 million price tag, I think there's probably there's validity to saying that he probably doesn't play like a $1.2 million player. Like if you look at someone like Kalen Ponga at the Knights, his kind of output when he's healthy, it's probably more than Jerome. But in saying that, I think that when you look at Jerome, you have to look at like the whole context to which he signed that deal when he came to the club. Like we just couldn't sign anyone. Like we like the Trail, Mitchell Moses, Josh Carr,
Mm.
the list goes on and on. He was like the one guy that like took a punt on us, and then like all these amazing things happened after because we had that one good core player, who could just be that kind of center person that we could sell the club to other players, to the fans. Like he really embraced the club, and like I think the club and like the players in the squad embraced him as well, in the sense that like last year you could see it. Like we started to have like a little bit of swagger about us. Like you could see Jerome really like rubbed off on everyone. And then this season, I think just like people like him are just so important. So like yes, well, like last year he probably didn't live up to the price tag. I think that like there are other circumstances. Like we could talk about Galvin, like how he started the year at 7, and then at the end of the year he played that kind of more traditional 6 role, and he started to play better. But by that point, it was a bit too late to kind of save the season. But I've been like pretty happy with him to start this year. The knee injury was a bit unfortunate. We didn't really get to see him for a few weeks, and then Jock Madden obviously played really well. But he was amazing against the Cowboys. I thought that the entire team was kind of slow against the Bunnies, but then I think if the game had went on for 5 more minutes, I thought he was I thought we would have pinched that. And then like last week against the Broncos, like I thought he was a bit rusty coming back from injury. But
Mm.
against the Raiders, I thought he adjusted. And I think that like veteran playmakers are just so rare to find these days. Like he's in that purple patch of his career. And like the thought of just replacing him with like a younger player, like although I do think that Andrews and Latu, like they obviously have like great potential. If you just look at like the team we played, the Canberra Raiders, and they've got that young Haas Saunders, like he was a great like Origin like under 20s like top halfback of his age group, and he's a great player, and I'm sure he'll work it out. But just seeing like young players transition into the NRL squad, it's not as seamless as just we can just play this person, because there's going to be some growing pains. So that's what makes it a little bit concerning. And whenever people bring up Jerome's price tag, I just think that he brings just so much more than just his on field, like his on field productivity, which I think has been pretty good this season now that the squad's more settled up to this point, because now there's the potential that Bulla and Jerome could have signed deals to leave the club like in the not too distant future. So that's a little bit unsettling.
I think all of us are sort of the opinion that in terms of the output that we've seen, the value that we're paying, we're not getting value on the field necessarily for what we're paying. Fairly small sample size. I mean, I'd like to see how he goes through the rest of the year, and I think he probably had a better game the other night. But I mean, can we afford to pay $300,000 or $400,000 extra for a guy that brings energy, it brings off-field connectivity? I mean, that's one of the core issues of the debate, Declan. And then I'll throw to you, Jordan.
Yeah, I just think for me, like and I think this is also to do with just like how preposterous the NRL transfer system is, because we signed Luai, I think, in the Christmas of 2023, like he plays the entire 2024 season for Penrith. And so like he was coming, and we didn't really like see him actually in the West Tigers jersey. But I just thought that like when he signed, like to see if that signing was successful, is that he would leave the club and we would be a consistent top 8 team that regularly played finals. And I thought that would be the hallmark for success for me. So for him to come and potentially, and like obviously, like there's no point crying over spilt milk, because no milk's been spilt yet. He might stay, and I hope he does. So there's no point worrying about it too much. But if he was just to sign with the Chiefs for 2028, I'd be like, well, have you really achieved what we were kind of all hoping you would? And the answer is probably not, even though we have started the season really strongly.
What's your take, Jordan?
Look, it was not an ideal story to come out. We always seem to have that thing where we're riding a little bit high and then something comes down to knock us down a peg. But at the same point, if we read into everything that's being said, the recent Weidler article says that we have until Thursday to activate, or he has until Thursday to activate the option for 2027. I actually always thought the impression is that he had a 2-year deal and then a 3-year option, but it's a 1-year rolling option every season. So that's going to be a distraction one way or the other, unless we got those clauses ripped out. But it means we're going to have an answer by Thursday one way or the other, because if he takes up the option, he can't sign with the Chiefs until November. So he has to sign with the Chiefs now as a free agent, and then he can actually activate that option for the 2027 season. It does create certainty. It's not going to drag out for a period. We could still have that cloud hanging over our head going, well, if he does activate it but doesn't sign with the Chiefs, what's going to happen in November? I'd rather him do it now. Personally, I'd rather him do it now. Either if he is going to do it, sign with them now, get it over and done with. We start the transition plan. We have Jock Madden, we have Javen Andrews, we have Latu. You start to come up with a transition plan where those players will come into those positions, and then by 2028 they will be more experienced. You'll still have Jock Madden hopefully at the club at the same time as well, so he can come in and have that older head. He will be a couple of years older. But yeah, as just to echo something Declan said, there's no point hanging the guy or crucifying the guy now. Nothing has been decided, but it would be remiss. I can't say that anyone would honestly not look at it, because the comparative is for the tax-free money that he would earn to go to the PNG equation would be that he would have to earn $2.2 million in a year to get that kind of money. So if and Benji would be the same, all NRL players have a short career in the span of their life. So if you're going to earn $4 or $5 million over the next 3 years, mate, power to you. Thank you for the culture. Thank you for what you've done. And hopefully we achieve the finals this year. He stays on for 2027. He continues that culture. We build, we go, and then we transition in 2028.
But just to like push back, if he was to sign for like 2028, like don't you just like feel watching him in like a Tigers jersey for like 2027 that he's kind of decided his future elsewhere? It would just be a bit like an empty feeling. Like I find it a little bit hard to describe myself, but like and there's the chance like we might win the comp next year. Like anything can happen. Like we're playing well, we're building, but realistically, like we're probably going to be like a team like the Cronulla Sharks, where like we incrementally get better. We get that finals experience, and then like we finish top four one season, and then we have a good run, and that's how we're going to realistically win. So I don't know, just for him to say like, okay, well, I'm going for 2020. Yes, I'm here next year, but it doesn't really work like that in terms of like the timeline of the team. It throws everything off, and yeah, I don't know. I would just personally, it would just be a bummer to see him next year, knowing that he's kind of committed his future elsewhere.
Well, that's
Not
for
that
better people with better knowledge to decide. That's up to Benji. Like that, with the transition plan and everything else.
But what do you mean
They'll have
transition
more.
plan? Like he's playing next year, so like, what do you
Yeah,
mean
so you
transition
you would
plan?
well you might have a part where you play instead of playing an extra hooker, you play the extra half. You might have that bit like we are depth covered in the sixth position. So you can have that idea where you can start to scale where you want those play. You've got to have a growth plan for every player. Every club does. Every young junior you have signed up, you have to show. That's the most common thing player agents ask for. They want a
Mm.
pathway plan. They want a progression plan. If you don't have a progression plan, you're in the wrong job. You shouldn't be in the NRL. If you shouldn't be managing a player as a coach or as a football manager, if you don't have progression plans for your future players. As much as Latu came out and said, I'll play wherever I want, you can't honestly tell me that he hasn't had a sit down with Benji and go, this is where your future is. Like, this is where we see you. This is where we see your career going and because if you do, these kids are going to sit there and that's when they start getting agitated. They start getting itchy feet and they want to go out the door. This is basically pulling a band-aid off of something that could possibly happen. And at the same point, on the other side of what you were saying, like, yeah, it might be an empty feeling. Okay, he's gone in 2028. As long as his effort is there and as long as he is still producing what we've seen, then again, power to the guy. The guy could do his ACL in a week's time.
Mm.
It does. They've got a short career. They've got to make the most of it.
I think that it's interesting because his best season of his career came under very similar circumstances. The last year he was at Penrith, he had committed to us before that season began. So he played throughout a season already in this sort of circumstance before, and it did bring out the best in him. So I'm not super worried about that. I will give you guys a little bit of a scoop. I heard from somebody who is relatively close to Michael Chamis that Jerome and Michael are sitting down tomorrow in Sydney. So I think that this whole thing is going to become, going to come to a head pretty fast. There is no deal in place as yet, though.
Yeah, I like as I said, like I just don't think that you can like these like you can transition like these players like at the end of the day like Jerome's going to be starting next year and you could give them like scrap minutes like off the bench and that's great. And I do genuinely hope, obviously, like being a Tigers fan, that like Latu or Andrews can come in and kill it. But like at the end of the day, Benji's going to want to win games and Jerome's going to play like the majority of the games he's fit. So it's just gonna, and then it's gonna be like the Raiders are right now, where they're gonna have to just like eventually take the punt on the young player. And I feel like one of the great things about seeing this team play at the moment is that there are no rookies except for Makasuni and Lily. Really, like everyone else is 2 or 3 or 4 seasons into their career. Like they know what first grade is about, and they're all playing super consistent. So for Jerome to kind of leave, and then we're kind of back to square one with a half or even a fullback as well. Like someone like Andrews and Leichhardt could be our starting fullback in 5/8 when Jerome leaves. I think it's just a bummer, and yeah, I'm frustrated about it.
I think it definitely goes against the narrative that we've all heard, which is that I've come here to make a difference, and I've come here to to captain the team and to help the Tigers. And yeah, I think he would lose a little bit of credibility if he was to jump when the job's only just partly done. But hey, as we've already said, if someone's offering you 30% more wages, like a lot of us would probably think about going to a different job. I mean, I get it. I understand it. It's the real world that we live in. What I'm worried about more so in terms of 2028 will look after itself, but I'm worried about we've already got the Bulla thing sort of hanging over us. Is it a potential? We tend to unravel in these situations. We have a historic track record of coming to these sorts of situations, and the momentum that we've got, the good things that are going on, tends to unravel. Now, I must admit, my eyes were on the Holman Barnes group, and I was on Dennis Burgess' watch, waiting for him to pull the rug from out from under us. This has sort of come a little bit from left field. Jordan, is this something that it's a test, I think, for Benji and the club, if this doesn't go the right way, that we don't let this destroy this season?
Definitely. Yeah, 100%. And it's going to show, hopefully, the same change that we saw. We saw all the board crap that happened earlier in the season, and everyone's like, oh, there was the excitement, and the air's been taken out by Richo leaving, and, the dismantling of the board and all that kind of stuff. And we have shown that that has not affected us. And hopefully this doesn't either. And, Max said it before in his last year at Penrith. He had signed with us. He had the pressure and the scrutiny. He had his own coach at the time saying, he wasn't worth the money that we were throwing at him. And hopefully that just gives him more of a motivation to go, well, you know what? I don't want to leave here without doing a job. And he achieves what he wants to achieve, whether it's one premiership, two premierships, whatever. It's more of a case of going, okay, well, how's he going to respond? The team, Benji seems to have the team that set. It's like we do what we do. We don't worry about the outside noise. And that's for them to do it. Jerome's got to do Jerome. He's got to play to his best ability. And hopefully this gives him more motivation to go, well, I've achieved success at Penrith. I've achieved success at the Tigers. Now I'm going to go achieve success at the Chiefs.
And then not obviously, I never really bought into this because, I think, from a footy sense, the answer is clear. But from a distraction point of view, how everyone was saying, you've got to play Madden and Dewey in the halves together. And then, when Luai was fit, and obviously Luai, you have to put him in there. But then, if he has a few bad games this season or next season, then the media circus that's going to be a distraction as well, where you're just well, should Madden be in there because Luai's not committed long term, or should Javon Andrews be there because he's not committed long term? And I don't agree with that. I think that you play Luai because he's a great player, and I think that he should be there. But yeah, just to your point, Joel, it just doesn't really go towards a settled playing group and club, which is to be fair, what this start of the season's been like, which has been nice, but it's a nice change of pace.
Mac, what about I think he'll stay. I don't think he will do it. He's got young kids, and I think it would be a massive move for where he's at. But the other question, or the other thing I was going to say is he achieved what he achieved at Penrith, which was awesome. The West Tigers look to be coming into something sort of special. I think you've got to factor that in as well. I mean, the Chiefs have signed nobody. He'd be number one. It's a huge risk.
Is it though? I mean,
A lot of clubs have come in and struggled for a long time. Melbourne being probably the main exception.
yeah, I know, but from Jerome Luai's perspective, I think signing with the West Tigers in the first place was just as
Yeah.
much of a risk. So I don't think he cares about things like that. I also don't think Jerome Luai particularly cares about how people perceive him either.
Mm.
So I don't really think it'll play on his mind all that much about, whether people think that he's hasn't proven enough and it's betraying him. At the end of the day, the 2.2 million is how much we would have to pay him to match the money.
Mm.
That is a huge amount of money. And for a guy who's from, a low socioeconomic background, thinking about setting up his whole family. He could set up, several families within his network with the amount of money that he'd make from that PNG deal, and he'll think about things like that.
Mm.
I'm not 100% convinced if he did sign whether Benji would actually play him next year, to be honest. I think that there's questions about whether he should be in the halves right now.
Mm.
By this time next year, who knows what sort of proposition Latu Finu will be.
Yeah.
Latu Finu was a sort of halves prospect coming through the grades that was Jerome Luai's equal. He looked pretty good in the New South Wales Cup yesterday. And I think that, there's no guarantee that Jerome Luai wouldn't just get put on the bench next year. I understand that it'd be strange to have somebody on $1.2 million on the bench, but stranger things have happened. And if Latu Fainu is every bit the equal of Jerome Luai next year, I mean, think about it right now. Like, if you were carving out salary based on on-field performances, who
Yeah.
would you give more money to, Adam Dewey or Jerome Luai?
Mm. Yeah, it's a pretty easy one, isn't it? Yeah.
So yeah, from my perspective, I'm again, I understand everybody's perspective. I understand, all of the ways that you could, look at this from the negative. Um, but I think that to the other point that was like, is this going to destabilize the club? I mean, we did a damn good job trying to destabilize that club with our kick out Holman Barnes campaign in the off season, and it didn't seem to do much. And sorry, I'm joking. HPG was that, not us. But so if anything, like I suspect it'll just galvanize the players even further. They've definitely got this like back against the wall, us versus them, chips on their shoulder mentality about things right now.
Mm, mm,
The only thing I'm worried about, as I said before, is whether there's quite a lot of good talent at this club that are off contract at the end of 2027.
yeah.
And Jerome Luai is a bit of a Pied Piper.
Declan.
Yeah, I was just thinking, maybe laugh like Adam Dury must be looking at all of this and just be like scheming, like, oh, I'll find myself back in the 5'8" jersey where I rightfully belong. It seems like Jeff Taxes and Adam Dury somehow managing to play 5'8".
He
So
must,
yeah, that'll be interesting.
he must look down at that knee and go, you little bastard, you cost me $1 million. Okay, so it's the end of 2027. Who do you prefer is leaving? Jordan, Bulla, or Luai?
Luai. I think Bulla needs to, especially from you look at the culture point of view. I think if they both left from a culture point of view and a
Yeah.
team point of view, it'd be a bad thing. Um, Luai only because of the age difference. He's either already 30 or closer to 30. Jareem's still got a very long career ahead of him. I would much rather keep him. We have Assad in the pipeline, but he's not ready. So yeah, I would definitely prefer Buller to stay. I'm not happy for Luai to leave. I'd love him to stay. I'd love him to
Yeah.
stay for the length of his contract. But it's more of looking at it from a point of view of going, okay, well, which one can we deal with better?
Mm, mm,
And I think a lot of it this more comes down to a business decision. This isn't a coaching decision. This isn't a club decision. It's more of a lifestyle, career, and his own future decision. Which at the end of the day, the only person who's going to look after yourself is yourself.
mm.
So yeah, I'd prefer to lose Luai. I hope Bulla does stay, but the longer that drags on, but again, we can still activate that contract in May and keep him here, and hopefully in that 6 months by November we can convince him to extend longer. But we all know who his manager is.
Yeah, that's right. Which, yeah, makes us all worried. What about you, Mac?
Yeah, I agree with most of what Jordan said. The only thing I disagree with is I actually kind of do want Luai to leave, to be honest. I've said this for a while now. Um, I was actually quietly happy that he was on these 1 year re-extension things because I kind of saw this coming in a sense that like, him being on a 5 year deal was gonna cost us Latu Finu. Like, no doubt about it. Like by the time Latu Finu is, a ready and willing first grader, he would still have, 2 or 3 years of Jerome Luai's contract in front of him. So, I also don't really see Latu Finu as a seven personally. I think Latu Finu is a six. So, no, I definitely Luai. And for all the reasons Jordan said, I think again, I'm not like it's not to say that like I'm fully sold on Jeremy Buller either, to be honest. I think he's been pretty
Mm,
mixed to start the year. He's shown some extremely promising signs at times, like elite at times, but then 4 errors on the weekend seems to be the consistent pattern with Buller at the moment.
mm.
But we have far, far, far less fullback depth. We have cabs off the rank ready to go
Yeah.
in the halves. One who, as I said before, is undefeated this year out of 3 games. Another who we signed with two of his brothers who are all off contract at the same time. Jerome Luai would ostensibly be going to PNG, by the
Yeah,
way.
yeah,
And then we've got this, wonderkind Javon Andrews in the wings at fullback. Jack Attard is 75 kilos, and then you've got like there are some good kids down there. Like I have huge raps on Logan Brooks, who's playing in the flag.
yeah.
Like I think Logan Brooks is going to be a very, very good footballer.
Mm,
But he's not going to be. Well, I mean, these things happen fast sometimes. They can have massive developmental leaps and be ready in no time flat. You can never really predict this stuff. If you
yeah.
cast your mind back to Bulla himself,
Mm,
he was a flag center
yeah.
and then had an off season and he was an NRL fullback. So it's difficult to predict, but yeah, like I mean, based on what we know, there's more cover there for Luai. So yeah, the answer has to be Luai for sure.
There's also a fullback with always had long hair who played for us in the under 20s, who's without a club at the moment, who's made some comments about coming back. I mean, I just wonder
Oh,
if there's a chance that Luai has got the blessing of the club because
yeah, I've been thinking the
Benji's
same
looking
thing.
at strengths and weaknesses and looking at I want to keep Terrell, I want to keep Talon, I want to be able to do this, I want to be able to do that, and maybe there's a big roadblock there called Jerome Luai. I mean, I don't know, but that there's a little bit of logic in that thought. Declan, what about you, Buller or Luai?
Well, yeah, I agree with what you said, Joe. Like, we don't really know the inside workings of like what's been said. But to answer your question, sorry, I think that I would prefer to keep Jerome Luai just because I think that in the market you can replace like there are good fullbacks that do become available, and like either it be like through like reserve grade stuck behind like a starting fullback. Look at Isaiah Youngie, for example, at Penrith, or like Benji. He's got a good relationship with players like maybe like Joey Manu, like coming
Mm,
back from French rugby, like he might be available. Like Ryan Pappenhausen, as you alluded to, like maybe he like suddenly wants to play rugby league again. I'm not sure, but like just replacing like an experienced veteran half, I think is much more difficult. And obviously, I want them both to say like Bill is amazing. Like I think he's been really good this year. Like he just seems to like continually be like a guy that we can like go to make something happen. Like he's really got that X factor about him. But
mm,
yeah, I just think that Jerome would be harder to replace. Although I do concede that like his salary, like dumping that would be easier to make it easier to re-sign like our other players, and then like the kind of talent across the squad would
mm.
be like more spread out. So that's a point
Yeah.
against keeping him.
I think if you looked at it totally from an unbiased perspective and you looked at it and you looked at the spreadsheet, you go, well, why is this guy earning significantly more than everybody else? And what is his output? If you looked at it just in black and white, cold hard figures, he's not good value. But I don't want to lose him. But it's very hard to make a case that he's been good value for us in terms of his on field output. Jordan, you had your finger up.
Yeah, just something on Max said, like with those players that are off contract, it is a concern about who else becomes a target, not even just for the Chiefs, but for the Bears for
For the Bears.
2028.
Mm,
Um, but it is right, if Luai does leave, you can back in some deals, and 300,000 between four players is probably better than 1.2 between one.
yeah.
So you could plot it like, because I think honestly, the one thing the club needs to focus on, if Buller and Jarome have sort of kind of got their intentions elsewhere, or if Buller's sort of just holding off, we need to sign Samuela well,
Yeah.
well before November. So, at which I believe the club's already making moves to do so. But that extra 300,000, you go, well, we'll give you this to 27, and here's an extra 300k in 2028.
Yeah.
Makes it quite an easier job.
Now, Jordan, we seem to be losing you. You're getting crackly, so maybe you can pop out and pop back in. And in the meantime, I will go through the one-word submissions from the West Tigers podcast forum. Now, you're not Mac Tiger, are you, Mac, on the West Tigers podcast? We got two Macs. Okay, I just wanted to make sure because I'd have to fact check you because this is a different one-word submission to one that you gave us at the top of the show. So I thought you might be hedging your bets. Nat Mac 78, their word was reversal, saying normally at this point of the season we're at best 2-5, which is 100% right. Tiger Stew, halves. We have the right halves, which was posted before all this Luai stuff came out. Declan's having a smile. Mac Tiger, their word was learning. It was harder than it needed to be, but a few of our blokes need to get back to school. LFC, their word was kiss. Keep it simple, stupid. We were better in the second half because we cut out the wild offloads and the clutch plays. Snake's word was Hunt. He is the epitome of what has changed. So we're talking about Royce Hunt and Royce's slim physique and his ability now to quite easily run 40 metres downfield and score like a good fullback. Barra, their word was forwards. Finally, we have a good pack. David's word on the West Tigers podcast forum was idiots. The keyboard warriors who think they know more than Benji or claim Jerome should be in reserve grade. Good one, David. Thank you. I don't know who you're pointing that at. Yeah, Max taking responsibility. London Tigers, sin bin. They only scored when we were down a man. Mike's word was team. They're a good football team and play as a team. Peter A's word was yardage. We can finally carry the ball out of our end. Enumerator went for Benji. The man can coach and inspire. Pat Walker's word was Klein. He did his best to ruin the game. He's been the worst ref in the game for years. A lot of people would agree. But then there's some pretty stiff competition for that title. Teddy S's word was direction. Not just our halves, the entire team. We haven't seen this in 15 years. And Tigersman, their word was pack, especially their defence and their line speed. Um, they're the kind of games, Mac, that I would suggest you have to win if you're going to play semi-final football. You get out there on a Thursday night. Yes, you can see that sin bin and the wheels fall off a little bit, but they're the kind of games where you look back at the end of the year, and if you win those, you go, "Yep, that's what's got us to where we've got to."
Yeah, that's a valid point. I'm not completely off Canberra yet either, to be honest. I
Yeah.
kind of thought I actually thought in a lot of ways, especially in that first half, I actually thought Canberra probably played us better than most other sides have.
Yep. Good line
Um,
speed. They're right up on us, and
I liked that they were promoting the ball, and I could tell that they had our defense a little bit more on the back foot than they had been for most of the season. Like there was a lot of second phase play, and I could see especially that winger there. I think his name's Tamale. Like he was
mm,
giving us fits off of second phase throughout the game.
yeah.
But look, yeah, it was very professional. Actually, like while you were rattling off those words, I thought dominant, to be
Mm,
honest, because that's how we're winning these games. We're just smashing them, like on both sides of the ball, but especially in defense. Like we're giving sides no time to do anything with the ball, getting right up in their face, hitting them hard, and it's happening all the way across the field. In even the backs are doing it. Like you see Luke Lolly smashing blokes. Sunia Taruva's smashing blokes. There's just this like mentality that they're just going after it. And to be honest, there hasn't been too much. South's been really the only other club that we've played so far that's kind of been able to match that kind of level.
mm,
Every other club, even the Broncos, like we kind of smashed the Broncos, to be honest.
mm.
They got out of jail in that game. There was Adam Reynolds'
Class.
magic
Mm.
Reeboks that won them that game. So yeah, I'm real high on the Tigers this year, to be honest, and I feel like that a lot of really smart neutral pundits are too. Most of the doubt is still coming from inside the house.
Mm,
Like
mm.
most of the neutral supporters and most of the neutral pundits are actually pretty sold by now on the Tigers. Not seeing too many people that are like, no, the wheels are going to fall off, I'm sure. And I
Yeah.
think everybody but us are pretty convinced.
Yeah, but once bitten, twice shy. Jordan, I thought in the first half before the Appy sin bin, as I said at the top of the show, it's sometimes we're a little bit impatient. I'm thinking about Jarome's attempted offload to Appy, which was never on. Is that something? Do you agree that that's something that this team could probably work on? Is just being a little bit more patient. As I said, it's great to be attack focused, but sometimes you just got to be a little bit smarter.
Yeah, there is a little bit of a panic.
Mm,
I'd maybe say it in a sense, especially when we're in that red zone. We look like we're going to be, if we don't score this set, is the be all and end all. But they are starting to learn that. Like we are just starting to pick and choose. We're starting to get a bit more depth. Like there were a couple of times being at the game, watching it from sort of kind of that behind angle, we weren't getting shape. Like we were flat. We were, we had players on top of each other. But then the moment we got shape and we started having bodies in motion, we were causing the Raiders headache. And, much to Max said, like we were dominant. Like there was a good period where, and you noticed the same the week previous, Raiders just could not get into our half to save their life. Or if they did, it was a metre or two into our half and then it was last tackle and they had to kick. So we seem to have this idea of really maintaining that field position, keeping them in their end. But yeah, we got to be a little bit more patient. I wish Dewey was a little bit more selective with his running and passing. He overruns a little bit
Passing?
too much. I'd like him to pass. Yeah,
What's that?
there was his first try was, he's lucky that he scored because they had an overlap. But yeah, there's a few things like that. But at the same time, we're building with a lot of it, and we're still scoring a decent amount of points. So we've got to be happy with that.
Maybe Dewey's got a pass quota because you
Yeah.
remember the play where Kyle Wicks belted him. He threw the pass to unlock the winger.
Mm.
And it's like, nah, that's my one pass per play. I can't
Yeah,
pass again to the unmarked
He
Bulla. I'll just get smashed instead.
he wanted that hat trick so bad,
Yeah.
so bad.
I think we need to put in a $500 a pass. Every time he passes Declan, he gets $500.
I mean, yeah, I feel like Dewey's like he does run the ball a lot, but it's working for him.
Yeah.
Like, so why try and mold him into, something he's not? But I do get what you mean. I feel like in finals it could like come back to bite us where like teams are probably more like on defensively and he might not be able to like score tries like that because it was probably more bad defense and brilliant attack from us.
I was going to give our defense a rap. Now, not when we had 12 men, but Mac, I thought some of our goal line defense was really, really good. Better than we've seen all year, I think.
Yeah. I think that we're also starting to trust our defense a little bit. And I think that kind of ties into the like panic mode attack too. Like we'll start to see the team less, desperate to like make the most of every attacking set that they have when as they build more and more trust in their defense. I don't know if it was the Canberra game or if it was maybe the week before the Broncos game where, they were doing things like taking tackles to just like back their
Yeah.
defense in
Newcastle.
their own end. That stuff, like you just don't see the Tigers do it. Also, they set up a field goal set and successfully executed it, which is
Mm.
a miracle. Like I think that's Adam Dewey's career second field goal. Jerome Luai still only has one. Ain't a good field goal team, but yeah, no. Defensively, we're a very good side. Kai Pearce-Paul, even before he got a head knock and went off the field, he had four missed tackles. That was an uncharacteristically poor performance by Kai Pearce-Paul, but everybody else in the forward pack was sensational. Alex Twal had 57 tackles
Yeah.
in the middle to go along with 160 meters. That beautiful offload to Royce Hunt.
Mm.
I know when you came on our podcast, I asked about Origin. I'm starting to think Dewey and Twal are actually pretty close to locks for it, to be honest, especially Dewey, who, to be honest, I think with his versatility and the six-man bench would be such a luxury for New South Wales to have in one of
Mm.
those additional two jerseys. But yeah, defensively, it's an amazing side, especially with like May and Twal and your forum participant who talked about Hunt.
Mm.
One thing that we are getting a lot of value out of are the bench forwards, especially Sione Fainu and Hunt.
Sione. Mm.
Especially defensively. Last year, Sione Fainu was a liability in defense in the middle, and so was Bolle, and they've both cleaned up their act significantly.
Yeah. Well, I've got Pole here for a special mention. I thought he was very good and he's been really good all year. Over the off season, I talked about him just trying to eradicate that one or two errors he's got in his game, and he's done that this year. He's been so much more consistent. He looks like he's actually sort of growing up as a player too. He's picking his moments a bit more. But Declan, Alex Twal, as Mac was saying, like, and it's not just the figures with what Twal's turning out. It's the team loses a little bit of momentum. They give the ball to Twal, and he just makes that 10 meters. I say it every week. I'm just astounded at how far his game has come.
Yeah, I know. Like you, honestly, like it's kind of come out of nowhere because I know that there was massive improvements like last season. Like we're kind of talking about how he was a really good player, but now he's just taken like another massive jump and like pretty late onto his career. Like obviously he's not super old, but like he's not like a rookie or anything. So yeah, just like a combination of like the new rule changes where like the ball, there's so much space like behind like the A and B and C defenders, where like someone who's like fit and like pretty big like Twal as well, like he can just kind of poke his nose through, get quick play the balls. Like he's always been like an amazing defender as well, who can get through a ton of work. So I think it's just like a combination of everything. And he's even ball playing now as well. He's double
Mm.
pumping, putting Big Royce into space as well, which I just never thought I'd see. So I mean, it's a credit to him and a credit to Benji because like stuff like that with forwards, like it's not something that you should just do willy nilly. Because I think Canberra did that as well when their prop like tried to like tip it on and then it hit
Yeah.
tap on his shoulder, and then we scored off the back of that. So you got to make sure if you're going to do it in a game, you have to be able to execute because you have if making errors is the one way to like like lose momentum. So it's just a credit to Twal, and I honestly think that if he wasn't at the Tigers and he was playing for like the Roosters or the Storm,
Mm.
then he would be like almost an Origin like lock at this point because he's like just the amount of work he's going through and the impact he has on the game is like it's undeniable at this point.
Yeah. I've got to give Luke Lalili a rap. I thought he was very good. And I'm not the world's biggest Luke Lalili fan, but I thought, credit where credit's due. But Jordan, good to see Stafford Toa back, albeit a little bit ginger, I thought he was in that game.
Yeah, he had his moments. His contact on the KO Weeks try was poor.
Mm.
But he did have his moments. He kind of kept tidy that edge. So I, got to see a little bit more from him before I make any pass market. It was a hard thing. He's had a disrupted off season, disrupted return in New South Wales Cup. So I'll give him a pass for the time being. Just on Twal, like with his efforts, I've nicknamed him Factory Reset because whenever we start seeming to go sideways
Yeah.
or our forwards aren't getting, he takes that one run right
Yeah.
next to the markers,
Mm-hmm.
and it just seems to put us back in this mindset of we've got a job to do.
Yeah.
So and plus, if Luai leaves, we saw that pass to Royce Hunt. Just chuck Twally in the 6 or the 7, and we'll be sweet.
Exactly. That's
You know who
the
else could be called factory resets? Taruva.
yeah.
Coming out of our own
Yeah.
end, some of those carries.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
was it's I think most of our like genuine yardage, like the yardage that gets us on the front foot comes
Yeah.
from Twal and Taruva.
Taruva.
Terrell
And he
May
gets
gets through a
smashed
lot
every
of work.
time. Yeah.
Yeah, but
He
is it
does,
just
but
me?
Terrell May gets through a lot of work.
Does Taruva look like he's always trying to put his head in a spot to get hit
To get a
high,
penalty. Yeah.
to get a penalty? Like I swear, every time he runs, and I know it's like he throws his head back on purpose to make
Yeah.
it look like he's been hit. Because my heart goes into my throat every time he runs it because it just looks like he gets absolutely polarized.
100%.
Well, you know, it's a wrestling trope that people from the Polynesian islands have like thick skulls and they can't get hurt.
Yeah.
Maybe there's some truth to it.
The human battering ram, and he's like literally battering himself forward. Samuela, that was a great pass in the second half. Like we talk about Two River, we've got some good players. It's hard for West Tigers fans to believe, but like as I say, like if you look at our lineup and you're the opposition, you think to yourself, well, he's a threat. He's a threat. He's got this. He's got that. We are doing an excellent job of building a squad, and maybe we need to just chill out and relax a little bit and have a little bit of trust and a little bit of faith. But it's really, really hard to do that as a Tigers fan, which leads me into what I'm going to hold up here, and I'll see if anybody who's going to be the first person to guess what it means. So there, for the people listening in, it says 8/17. And no, it's not a Bible passage. We're not going to go and pray, although we are, as Tigers fans, all praying. Does anybody know what that calculate? It's a calculation. 8/17.
It's a calculation.
8 games, 17 left.
There's 17 games left for the West Tigers.
Oh, you think we need to win 8 games to make the 8 guaranteed?
Well, that takes us to 32 points, and that's what the Roosters needed
Yeah.
for 8th spot last year. So it's not a guarantee. We might need less, but we've got to
Or
get
more.
yeah or more
Mm.
exactly. Yeah, yeah. But we've got to get at least 8 of 17. So
Well, have you seen the draw for the second half of the year? Like, I know everybody's sort of just looking right in front of us, and with Appy
mm,
potentially missing games and a few
It
hard
gets
games.
ugly.
Oh, later in the year, it's pretty clear. To
yeah,
be
it's a
honest,
little
we
bit
played Penrith
downhill.
twice.
Mm.
Yeah, we played Penrith twice in the back half of the season, but we don't play the Broncos again. We don't play Souths again. We only have to travel to Queensland to for Magic rounds, so we're not playing the Titans in Queensland this year, which is a graveyard for us.
Titans are at
Um,
Leichhardt, I think, aren't they? I think this
yeah,
year.
that's what
Yeah,
I
That's our
that's
mean.
and
next home
that's
game.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
we've got a month of no home games.
yeah.
but yeah, so this next month's tough. But even if we come out of these next three games and have the worst case scenario, we're still 5-5 going into what is a pretty soft back half of the year, to be honest, based on
Mm.
the draw.
So I'm going to hang on to this, and then every week on the Sunday night pod, I'm going to change it, and hopefully it goes 7 and 16, 6 and 15.
I like
It
it.
goes. I hope that 8 goes down real quick.
You've
I like
cursed
it.
us. That this is
Oh, I
the
know I've
point.
cursed us 100%. Yeah, and you can come and shoot me.
No, no, no. I refuse. No, it's fine.
Let's fall down
Okay,
will be
Both
studied.
we have to maintain the affirmative, positive
positive vibes.
mindset. West
That's
Tigers
right. It wasn't
faithful
my
style.
prediction,
South
so it
End.
should be okay.
Yeah, Jordan, I've taken one for the team here. Yeah. Okay, before we go, Appy, we're going to be without Appy, Mac. So what are we going to do? We're going to put Madden in. What do you think? Hope run Madden off the
Oh, I
bench.
think I think you'll see Tristan Hope named at number 9 on Tuesday,
Yeah,
but I do have a pretty outlandish prediction.
yeah.
I think even though he wasn't playing New South Wales Cup, I think Jared Hayward's going to be named in the 19.
Well,
He
when we
played
spoke in the off season, you said he was a chance. Yeah.
he played in Flag. I don't know if you guys follow the Flag, but Flag beat Canberra 42-12 yesterday, I think it was. And Jared Hayward had 4 try assists in the second half.
Well,
And three of his 4 try assists were one off the ruck, like face balls to forwards crashing onto the play. Tristan Hope can't play 80 really.
mm,
And I think that the way that we play, where, we get on top physically. So generally towards the back end of the game, the opposition forwards are tired, worn out. I think if Jared Hayward gets named in the 19 man, you might see him come on the field, say at like the 55th or 60th minute, and he will do really, really well in that exact condition.
yeah.
He's definitely not ready for like, the
Yeah,
Weekend
grind of
football.
the
physically ready.
NRL.
Mm,
He's not as small as you think. Like he played in the trial and was pretty fine. He played New South Wales Cup earlier in the year, and he didn't really like it wasn't like his like lack of physicality stood out or anything like that. It's more, I think, to be honest, the main thing that's kind of keeping him in flag is probably just Benji trying to be really, really like patient with his development
conservative.
because
Yeah.
he is so far above that grade right now. Tiger's squad's gone by. He probably would be already playing first grade off the bench, to be honest,
Yeah.
based
Yeah.
on what he can actually do. I know it'd be an unusual leap to see somebody like Hayward go straight from flag to first grade, but it's an unusual situation because Api was playing 80. Tristan Hope probably can't really play 80.
Mm,
And I don't really think. Look, I mean, they might try to get 20 minutes at 9 out of Latu Finu or something like that. But I do think that they will probably play Jared Hayward in the 19
well,
just in case, say Tristan Hope gets injured early or something like that. That's my outlandish prediction.
okay. Well, yeah.
Has
Well,
Appy actually taken the
interesting.
guilty plea? Has
No,
that actually been confirmed?
no, they haven't answered a plea yet. So we'll know tomorrow whether or not they're actually challenging it.
Because
Uh,
it sounded like Benji based on the press conference. I honestly thought they might challenge it.
Yeah.
I
I had
suspect
that
they will.
feeling.
I
Mm,
suspect they'll try to downgrade it. And I
Mm.
suspect they probably will succeed, to be honest. I think that they'll get it downgraded. Because to be honest, the reaction from the NRL about this has been pretty negative, to be
yeah.
honest. I think there's a little bit of like a sentiment change around the hip drop stuff that Benji kind of caused in his presser and then Wayne Bennett reiterated. And I think if they challenge it and they lose the challenge, Appy's sentence goes from 3 to 4 weeks, and it'll make that sentiment so much worse. So I
Yeah,
feel
yeah.
like that it'll kind of be the judiciary will be kind of forced to accept the downgrade to avoid the worst outcome of sentencing Api Koroisau to a 4 week
Mm.
suspension for what essentially was something he couldn't control that didn't even injure the player.
Well, at worst, you'd describe it as careless, wouldn't you? I mean, there wasn't an intent to
No,
hurt or an
there's
intent
no
to.
intent.
There's no
And he didn't
intent.
even injure, like he kept
Mm,
playing, right?
mm,
Well, I mean, I think
Yeah.
maybe there's talk that he's actually hurt, but he played the rest of the game.
mm.
So I don't
I think he went off at halftime. No, he
Yeah,
played like 30 more minutes than he went off, so he didn't
The the
finish.
difference the difference with that tackle compared to others from a technique point of view is you've got a much smaller player against a much bigger player, grabbing him from behind and momentum,
mm,
everything. It was not an intent to, put the body weight onto the legs, and that's the kind of issue. And there was one earlier in the Newcastle game that was exact, and the player didn't get injured, and they got the penalty, and the player got put on report, but the exact same thing.
yeah, yeah.
But he was dragged from behind by a much bigger opponent,
Mm,
and you do everything you can. What are you meant to do? Just let him go and score? Like
yeah,
what?
yeah.
What do you do in that position?
Yeah, I don't think you should be facing multiple weeks for something that's careless.
A downgrade would get him one, I think, wouldn't it?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think they should fight it. The only thing I would say that goes against Alpi is that he has had a run of these sorts of similar plays, so maybe is something he needs to look at. But yeah, 3 or 4 weeks seems really, really harsh. And I know I'm saying that as a Tigers fan, but if that was anybody, I'd be saying, come on, that's too much. Bulla maybe injured. Declan, you're going to throw Taruva in at fullback if Bulla's not available?
Um, yeah, I think that if Bulla was out long term, like 4 months, not 4 months, sorry, like four
Fullback.
4 weeks to I would be kind of tempted to try something else. But if it's just like a few weeks, just as a kind of like slapstick kind of, just play Tareva here until Bulla gets back, because I do feel that we lose a lot in attack when Bulla's not there, and I don't think that Tareva can like fill a lot of that. Like I think he's a great ball returner. I think he's like good in the air, and
Yeah,
he's like he can be really busy at fullback, which is great. But then when we
it's
get
not the
into the
same.
red zone, yeah, it's not the same.
Mm,
So I think it just depends on how long Bulla would be out for. But Benji pretty much confirmed that he like Truva's the
mm.
second option if Bulla was to pull out injured. So it's just fingers crossed that Bulla is okay. It's Benji didn't seem too worried, and I feel like if it was really bad, it would have leaked by now if
Yeah.
he was out long term, if the touch wood. But yeah, I'd be kind of keen to see how Adard is going. I've only seen a few games of Cup. Battle reports like he's still a bit raw, but yeah, we don't really have a lot of, because then like you kind of have to like take other people out of other possessions, and you're kind of weakening everything. But yeah, so yeah, fingers crossed Bill is all right to go.
Well, let's throw that over to Mac, who watches a lot of the younger grades. Adard, what I hear, what I understand, is that he's talented but not ready.
Yeah, I mean, I actually think Sunia Taruva is an underrated fullback, to be honest. Right now, Sunia Taruva is way better at fullback in the NRL than Attard.
Okay.
And Attard went off injured yesterday as well.
Yeah.
So Heath Mason finished the game at fullback in New South Wales Cup yesterday. So I haven't heard about whether that's like long term for Attard.
Right.
But there are a plethora of other players around the team who have experience at fullback. The aforementioned Heath Mason being one of them. Not that I rate him very highly. Luke Olali'i played
Yeah.
more fullback as a junior than he did on the wing. He's actually a really good fullback. I have
Yeah.
been curious to see how he would go in the NRL as a fullback. He has an outstanding passing game.
Yeah.
I watched him play fullback when in New South Wales Cup last year, and I think he clocked over 300 meters Matt Duffy style from fullback in a New South Wales Cup game.
Mm.
I would definitely favour Luke Lolley to play fullback over Attard. I think Attard is like pretty far away in that
Yeah.
sense. Attard is just yeah, it's mostly things like the high ball that would worry me. Things
Yeah.
like, last line of defense, rallying the troops at defense. Like, I just, He's definitely up to a ball in hand, I think. Like
Yeah.
he's scored a lot of tries already in New South Wales Cup, and he can beat a man one on one and stuff like that. But it's all of the other stuff that really scares me.
Mm. Luke Lely at fullback scares me. I've got to say, I'm not discounting what you're saying. I'm sure he's got plenty of ability there, but that just sends shivers down my spine.
People underestimate him. Like you got to remember, he hasn't even played 10 first grade games yet. Like
Yeah, I know.
he's so young. He's only 19.
He's in my bad books, and it's hard to get out. Macassini's in the bad books as well. He could play fullback, but that would be a huge jump given where he was at 2 weeks ago. And there's the HIA for KPP. So fingers crossed there. It was a grade 2 apparently, so hopefully he's okay. And Taylor May had a bit of a wrist injury as well, so we'll wait and see how the team lines up on Tuesday. Mac, where do we catch the West Tigers Faithful podcast, and why should we catch the West Tigers Faithful podcast?
So our podcast, you can listen to it on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. You can listen to our podcast if you like listening to two guys talk about quantum reality in like heavily coded language. It's a Taoism podcast dressed up as football, but we also focus on pathways a lot.
Right.
So if you're interested in being like the one of your mates that has all of the hot tips about the next new player coming through, you'll most likely hear about it on West Tigers Faithful first.
Well, I'd be more than happy to come on and talk about Lao Tzu and the Tao Te Ching anytime
I
you
love
like. So,
that.
yes.
Yeah.
All right,
Bring
guys.
it on.
Thank you very much. And yeah, we'll catch you again, Mac, at some stage down the track. I think your partner in crime is going to join us too in a couple of weeks for a bit of
Absolutely. Yeah,
chat as well,
Reedy
Jared.
and you will talk each other's ear off. You might need 3 hours for that one.
Sounds good. All right. Declan, Jordan, thank you very much. We'll regroup and come back after the team is named on Tuesday. Thanks, guys.
Thank
Easy
you.
done. Thanks, guys.